Speak Daily English. Real English every day.
Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We are tackling a challenge today that I think resonates with so many of you learning English. Where you can understand almost everything, but actually speaking, that feels like a whole different story.
Yeah, it's that really frustrating feeling, isn't it? You can follow a complex conversation, you get the jokes, maybe you watch a movie, no problem. You feel like you've got it.
Right, totally plugged in. But then it's your turn. You need to say something, ask a question, share an idea, and poof.
It just vanishes. Or maybe just a few words come out and they feel kind of clumsy, not like the fluent English you hear in your head.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly common, apparently.
Yeah.
And it just leaves you feeling, well, stuck.
Like you know the language is in there somewhere, right? But you just can't seem to get it out properly.
So our mission today in this deep dive is really to explore why. Why does this gap exist? We've looked into some great insights on this.
And maybe more importantly, we're going to look at the practical stuff,
Right.
actual strategies from those insights to help you bridge that gap. For real.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some relatable stories coming up and some concrete steps you can actually start using.
Because this isn't some, impossible mystery. It's a hurdle, but one you can absolutely get over.
Okay, let's dive in. So let's paint that picture again. You're listening, maybe in a meeting or just chatting with friends, and your brain is totally keeping up. You're getting the main points, sure, but also the little things, the jokes, the tone.
Absolutely. It's like you're a fantastic receiver. Sometimes people call these learners silent listeners. They have this amazing ability to just soak it all in. They process really complex stuff, nuances, effortlessly.
But then, the spotlight swings to you. And suddenly all that processing power you had for understanding just seems to evaporate when it's time to speak.
Your mind knows what it wants to say, right? But finding the actual English words, putting them together, it's like they just scatter.
And the feeling that comes with that, it's rough, isn't it? You might feel kind of misunderstood, or maybe like people think your English isn't as good as it is just because you're quiet.
Yeah, even though your comprehension is actually super high, it's a real disconnect.
You've got thoughts, ideas, opinions, but they feel trapped behind this wall. You're like in the conversation, but feeling stuck on the sidelines.
I think anyone who's gone deep into learning another language has felt that exact thing at some point. It's almost a rite of passage.
And that's really key, isn't it? What the material we look at really emphasizes is that this is completely normal. It's a standard stage.
Right. Doesn't mean you're failing, not at all. It actually means you've built incredibly strong understanding skills. You've nailed the input part.
Okay. So now you just need to build the speaking skills to match that.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. The why. Why does my brain seem perfectly happy understanding, but then it just quits on me when I try to talk?
Okay, so here's the absolute core idea that really stood out. Your brain uses different systems, separate systems actually, for language coming in that's understanding and language going out, producing, speaking.
Oh, okay. So they're related, obviously, but not the exact same skill using the same brain wiring.
Precisely. Think of it like catching a baseball versus throwing one.
Ah, okay, yeah. Both involve a baseball, same object. But catching uses different muscles, different timing, different coordination than throwing it accurately.
That's a perfect analogy. When you're listening or reading the input side, your brain is mostly pattern matching. It hears sounds, sees words, and connects them to meanings you already know. Context helps a ton here, too. Your brain makes predictions, fills in gaps.
So understanding is a bit like a multiple choice test. The answer's right there in front of you. You just need to recognize it.
Exactly. But speaking, or writing for that matter, that's the productive side. That's more like a fill-in-the-blank question, or maybe even writing the essay question yourself. You have to generate the language. You need to pull the specific words from your memory, find the right grammar rules, put them together.
And then for speaking, you also have to coordinate all those tiny muscles in your mouth, your throat, your breathing, all in real time.
Right. It's a whole construction project happening instantly.
Wow. Okay, when you put it like that, speaking sounds way more complicated than just listening.
It involves more active construction, definitely. And here's where the imbalance often comes in. And this was a really eye-opening point. Most learners spend the vast majority of their time on input, listening, reading, watching stuff.
Right. Makes sense. That's usually how classes are structured, or what feels easier to do alone.
Exactly. One piece we looked at estimated it could be as high as 90% of study time is spent just on input.
Okay, I see where this is going. So you end up with this super strong understanding muscle, but the speaking muscle is, well, pretty weak from lack of exercise.
Precisely. You get really, really good at receiving language, but the pathways, the mental muscles needed to actually build and send language, they just haven't had the training they need.
And then you threw in the pressure of a real-time conversation. That adds a whole layer of social stuff, maybe anxiety.
Yep.
So your brain isn't just trying to find words and grammar. It's also maybe dealing with the stress of, oh no, what if I mess up? Or what will they think? And that anxiety can just shut the whole production system down.
It's like a perfect storm. Great understanding, underdeveloped speaking ability, and then performance anxiety piled on top. No wonder people freeze.
Exactly.
Okay, let's make this more real. The material had some great examples of this in action.
Yeah, there was a story about a student named Lynn. She was in an English class, and apparently she understood everything, followed complex discussions, took amazing notes, like totally got it. But for weeks, she just didn't speak at all.
Oh yeah, the classic silent listener. I know that feeling.
Completely. So her teacher eventually talked to her privately, asked what was going on, and Lynn said something like, in my head, I know exactly what I want to say. I have the perfect sentence, but when I try to actually say it, it just comes out all wrong.
Ugh, that is so relatable. It physically hurts. That gap between inner thought and outer speech. It really is. She knew the English, but the act of producing it felt impossible, maybe too risky. So the teacher gave her this really simple challenge. Just say one sentence in class tomorrow. Didn't have to be perfect, didn't have to be long, just one sentence, anything.
And did she?
She did, and yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't grammatically perfect, but it was understandable. And apparently, the shift in her was almost immediate.
Wow.
It was like getting that permission slip, permission to be imperfect. That one small act of just doing it, accepting it might not be flawless, that was the breakthrough. She started speaking more after that.
That's amazing. Her understanding was the foundation. It was solid. Speaking just needed that little push, that activation, and the okayness with imperfection.
Exactly. It wasn't about learning more English vocabulary or grammar at that point. It was about activating what she already had.
That really resonates. I had my own very humbling version of this learning Spanish. I'd studied for years, read books, watched films, felt pretty good about my understanding.
Right, you'd built up that input muscle really well.
Totally. Then I actually went to Mexico. First day, sitting in a restaurant, feeling pretty confident. Waiter comes over, asks me what I want to drink. Super simple, right? ¿Qué quiere tomar?
Oh, boy. I think I know where this story ends.
My brain understood instantly. No problem.
Yeah.
But actually saying the Spanish word for water, total blank, complete freeze.
No.
Yes. I panicked.
Yeah.
And I ended up just pointing at my friend's glass of water like some kind of, I don't know, confused tourist who'd never spoken before.
Oh, the mortification. We've all had moments like that, though.
It was awful. And inside my head, I was just screaming, it's agua. I know the word agua. Why can't I say it? That moment just slammed it home for me. Understanding and speaking are different skills. My receiving skills were great. My sending skills in that moment completely failed.
So what did you do after the pointing incident?
Well, eventually I started talking to myself a lot. It felt completely ridiculous at first, honestly.
Yeah, like what?
I just narrate my day in Spanish in my head, or sometimes quietly out loud if nobody was around. Okay, now I'm walking to the store. I think I'll cook pasta tonight. Just forcing my brain and mouth to form Spanish sentences, any sentences, without the pressure of someone listening and potentially judging.
Taking the pressure off, just pure output practice. Did it help?
It made a massive difference, seriously. By the end of that trip, I wasn't fluent. Not by a long shot, but I could have actual conversations. Imperfect, sure, but I could communicate what I needed to. It was about giving that speaking skill the specific direct training it needed, away from the spotlight.
These stories really highlight it, don't they? And the sources back this up. Understanding is about recognizing, interpreting. Speaking is about constructing, retrieving, physically producing.
Like recognizing a song versus being able to sing it on key from memory. Very different.
Exactly. And then, yeah, that anxiety layer just makes the singing part even harder. Your brain's trying to do this complex thing while also managing fear, which can just shut it all down.
Okay, so the problem's clear. The reasons make sense. The good news, though, is that this isn't a life sentence. The sources were full of practical ways to actually train that speaking muscle.
Absolutely. Let's shift gears now from understanding the why to tackling the how. If you're listening and thinking, yep, that's me, the silent listener, the very first, most foundational thing you can do is, well, you got to start speaking, even if it's just to yourself.
Right. That might sound a bit odd, talking to yourself, but it's genuinely the safest space possible to practice output. There's zero pressure. You're your own very patient audience.
And start really small. Just narrate simple actions. Okay, I'm getting out of bed now. I need to find my keys. Oh, the cat wants food. Just getting your mouth and brain used to forming basic English sentences in real time.
And this is crucial, something the source is really stressed. Forget about perfect grammar at this stage. Just don't worry about it.
Seriously. The goal is simply getting the idea from your brain through your mouth into spoken words. Focus on flow, not flawlessness. Polishing comes later. If you wait for perfection, you'll literally never start talking.
Yeah, that perfectionist trap is huge here.
Massive.
Okay, what about using stuff we're already listening to? Can that help?
Definitely. That leads to a technique sometimes called shadowing plus. You probably know shadowing, listening to native speakers and repeating exactly what they say, right? Great for pronunciation, rhythm.
Yeah, I've heard of that. So what's the plus?
The plus is where you take it a step further. You listen to a sentence, you pause the audio, and then you try to create a similar sentence yourself. Use the same structure, maybe some of the same vocabulary, but change the details.
Oh, okay. So if the audio says, she went to the library to borrow a book.
You might pause and say, he went to the cafe to meet a friend, or I went to the gym to work out. You're using the pattern you just heard, but you're actively creating something new with it. I really like that. It moves you from just mimicking to actual production. You're building your own sentence based on a model. That feels like a really direct bridge.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to move from passive understanding of sentence structures to actively using them yourself.
Okay, let's get super concrete. Give us some specific exercises people can start doing, like today, based on those strategies.
All right, first one. The daily English diary, but spoken out loud. Set a timer, maybe just 5 minutes to start, maybe first thing in the morning or before bed, and just talk. Talk about your day, what happened, how you felt, what you're thinking about.
Why is talking about your own day so effective?
Because the content is easy. It's your life. You know it intimately. You don't have to search for facts or ideas. All your mental energy can go into the how do I express these familiar thoughts and events in English?
That makes total sense. Lowers the cognitive load. Okay, what else?
Another good one is the question and answer game. This is literally having a mini conversation with yourself. Ask yourself a question out loud, then answer it out loud. Like, what did I have for lunch today? And then answer, I had that leftover pasta from last night.
Yes. And then keep it going. Ask a follow-up. Was it good? Yeah, it was actually better today. It trains that back and forth rhythm of conversation, formulating responses quickly.
Okay, practicing the reaction part of speaking. Nice.
It really helps. Then there's movie retelling. After you watch something, a movie, a TV show episode, even a short YouTube video you understood well, try explaining it out loud. Like, tell an imaginary friend the plot, describe the characters, what you thought of it.
Okay, so again, you're leveraging the input you've already processed. You understood the story. Now you're practicing the output task of describing it.
Exactly. And the advice here is definitely start simple. Don't try to retell like a super complex political thriller first time out. Maybe start with a kids show, a sitcom, something where the plot and language are clearer.
Good tip. Makes it less daunting. One more.
One more really practical one, opinion practice. Pick a really simple topic seriously. Anything, and just talk about your opinion on it for, say, 1 minute.
So the topic itself doesn't matter much.
Not really. It could be coffee versus tea, why cats are better than dogs, my favorite season, why I like living in the city. The point isn't to have a profound opinion. It's the act of forming and expressing thoughts, any thoughts, in spoken English continuously for a short burst.
And all of these, the diary, the Q&A, the retelling, the opinion practice, you can do them completely alone. No judgment, no fear, just practice.
Right. The goal initially is just comfort, building the habit, getting words out, not perfection. Expect it to feel awkward at first. That's normal. Your brain is literally forging new connections.
This is like any skill, isn't it? Learning to type, playing guitar. It's clumsy and slow initially, but that consistent practice builds the fluency.
Exactly.
So maybe the takeaway here is just pick just one of these to try. 5 minutes, a few questions, one movie scene. Just a tiny start.
That's the best way.
Now, okay, we have to circle back to the fear factor, the anxiety, because even doing these exercises alone is one thing, but the thought of actually speaking English to another person, that can still feel terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge hurdle, and it's tangled up with everything we've discussed. A lot of that anxiety stems from that mismatch we talked about, the feeling that because you understand English so well, your speaking should be perfect.
Right. And any mistake feels like a massive failure, confirming your fears.
But think about it. Just because you can read sheet music fluently doesn't mean you can sit down and play a piano concerto flawlessly first try, right? There's practice involved.
Good point.
And here's something really important to internalize. Native English speakers are not perfect speakers. Not even close, especially in casual conversation.
Oh yeah, listen to any recording of natural speech.
Yeah.
It's full of romums, restarts, weird grammar.
Totally. We stumble, we forget words, we use sentence fragments, we use informal structures all the time. So you really need to give yourself permission to sound like a normal human being learning a language.
Communication is the goal, right? Not grammatical perfection in every single sentence. Getting your idea across, connecting with the other person. That's what matters.
Absolutely. Your ability to connect and be understood is way more important than perfect syntax.
So for someone really frozen by that fear, what's a practical first step for interacting with actual humans?
The advice is usually to start with low-stakes situations. Think about interactions where there's very little personal investment or pressure.
Like?
Ordering coffee, asking a shop assistant where something is, asking for directions, making really brief small talk with a cashier, nice weather today, or whatever.
Because if you stumble or it goes a bit wrong, it doesn't really matter. You'll likely never see that person again. The consequences are basically zero.
Exactly. The pressure is way lower. And honestly, most people in those situations are not analyzing your grammar. They're usually just trying to help, or they're busy. Often, they're actually impressed you're making the effort in their language.
Yeah, the harshest critic is almost always the one inside your own head.
Always. And here's the thing. Every time you do try, even if you make a mistake, and the person understands you anyway, and the world doesn't end, that's powerful proof. It shows you that mistakes are okay. They don't stop communication.
It's like building confidence evidence, one tiny interaction at a time.
Precisely. You're building the speaking muscle and the confidence muscle simultaneously. Each small success, even an imperfect one, chips away at the fear and makes the next attempt a little easier.
And maybe reframing the anxiety helps too. Feeling anxious just means you care. You want to communicate well. That desire is actually a positive thing.
That's a great way to look at it, that care is the fuel for improvement.
Okay, let's wrap up with some inspiration. There's a great success story in the material that really shows this whole process playing out.
Yeah, the example of Ahmed, a software engineer, super smart guy, apparently understood complex technical English in his field absolutely perfectly, read documentation, followed technical talks, no problem.
Couldn't speak up in meetings,
Wow.
let me guess.
You got it. He felt totally invisible, had brilliant ideas but couldn't get them out fast enough or clearly enough in group discussions. He felt like his colleagues didn't realize what he knew because he was so quiet.
Ugh, that's got to be incredibly frustrating, especially professionally.
Terribly frustrating. So he started working on it. He actually learned some simple meeting phrases, things to say to jump in or buy himself a second to think.
Oh, like placeholder phrases.
Exactly. Things like, that's an interesting point. Let me think about that for a second. Or just to build on what Sarah said. Things that kept him in the conversation while his brain worked on formulating his actual contribution.
Smart. Buys you thinking time while still participating.
Yes. But the real breakthrough for him, the story suggested, was a mental shift. He stopped obsessing over, how do I sound? Is my grammar perfect? Am I fluent enough? And instead, he started focusing on, what's the core idea I need to share here? What value can I add to this specific discussion right now?
Shifting from performance anxiety to focusing on the actual content and contribution.
Exactly. Focusing on the message, not just the delivery. And apparently, the change was dramatic. Over a few months, he went from being silent to actively participating, even leading parts of discussions sometimes. His manager noticed, his colleagues noticed, his ideas were finally getting heard.
Wow. That's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
It really shows that the knowledge, the understanding, it was all there. He just needed to unlock the speaking part.
And Ahmed's story isn't some miracle. This kind of transformation is actually really common once people start deliberately training that output skill. You're not starting from scratch. You're activating potential you already have.
The understanding is the foundation. It's solid. You just need to build the house on top of it. The potential is absolutely inside you.
It really is.
So, here's something to think about for everyone listening. If your English understanding is strong, what is just one tiny step you can take this week, maybe even today, to start letting your voice catch up, even if it feels imperfect?
Could be talking to yourself for literally 2 minutes tonight. Could be trying that Q&A game in the shower tomorrow. Could be saying thank you, have a nice day to a shopkeeper, instead of just nodding. Start microscopically small if you need to.
Because this struggle, feeling like you understand but can't speak, it's real, it's common, it's understandable, but it is definitely fixable.
It really is. Just start small, try to be consistent, and please give yourself permission to be imperfect along the way. Progress isn't linear.
And here's a little challenge, inspired by the material. Sometime this week, try to have just one short conversation or interaction in English where you say something meaningful to you, even if you stumble, even if you make a mistake, even if it's just ordering your coffee exactly how you like it, or telling a friend one thing about your day, or asking one question you're curious about. Just get one meaningful thing out.
And maybe take a second afterwards to notice how it felt. Did the world end? Probably not. Maybe even share that little moment, that tiny win, with someone else who gets it.
Because your voice matters.
Yeah.
Your ideas matter. And your English, even your beautifully imperfect, developing English, deserves to be heard.
You have the understanding. The potential is undeniably there. It's really just about starting to activate it step by step.
We absolutely believe you can do this.
You really can.
This has been The Deep Dive. We really hope this conversation helps you feel a bit less alone if this is your struggle, and maybe a bit more empowered to start speaking.
Yeah, time to move from being a silent listener to becoming a confident communicator, one small step at a time.
See you next time.
Speak Daily English. Real English every day.